You ever notice how some people check their bank account and it ruins their entire mood? Like, everything was fine until they opened that app. Now suddenly they're doing mental math. Can I afford this? Should I wait? Maybe next week? That quiet stress? That constant low-level pressure? Most people think that's just normal. It's not. There's a point, financially, where that feeling starts to disappear. Not completely, but enough that your decisions stop being driven by fear. And here's the part nobody really tells you. That point isn't $1 million. It's not even 6 figures. It's much earlier than that. And once you cross it, your entire relationship with money starts to shift. Let me explain. Right now, most people are playing defense with their finances. They're reacting. Bills show up, they respond. Something breaks, they scramble. An opportunity appears, they hesitate or miss it entirely. Not because they're lazy, not because they're bad with money, because they don't have margin. They're operating with zero breathing room. And when you live like that long enough, something happens mentally. You stop thinking about building a future and start focusing only on surviving the present. Think about it. When money is tight, every decision feels heavier than it should. A $5 purchase becomes a debate. A small mistake feels like a setback. Unexpected expenses feel like emergencies. Your brain isn't optimizing for growth. It's protecting you. Now imagine something different. Same life, same job, same responsibilities. But this time, you've got a buffer. Not a fantasy amount. Not rich. Just enough to know, if something goes wrong, I'll be okay. That's where the shift begins. For most people, that shift starts to happen around a very specific number, $20,000. Not because it's magical, but because of what it represents. At that level, something changes internally. You stop asking, how do I make it to next paycheck? And you start asking, what should I do with what I have? That's a completely different game. And here's what's interesting. The real change isn't just in your bank account. It's in your behavior. Before you reach that level, you're forced into short-term thinking. You take whatever job is available. You tolerate situations you don't like. You avoid risks, even good ones, because you don't have the luxury of choice. But once you build that cushion, you gain something incredibly valuable: options. And options change everything. Suddenly, you can say no without panicking. You can wait for a better opportunity. You can think before reacting. You're no longer cornered. And when that pressure goes away, even slightly, your thinking changes. You become more strategic, more patient, more intentional. This is where most people get it wrong. They think wealth is about hitting a huge number, but in reality, wealth starts when your decisions are no longer controlled by fear. Now let's talk about momentum, because this is where things get interesting. Getting to your first $20,000? That's the hardest part. No question. It takes discipline, consistency, saying no when it's inconvenient. It's slow, sometimes frustratingly slow, but once you get there, something subtle starts happening. Your money begins to participate. Now it's not just you saving, it's your money helping, even if it's small at first, even if it doesn't feel impressive. That's the beginning of leverage. And over time, that leverage grows. Not because you're working harder, but because you've built something that works with you. Here's the part people don't expect. The second milestone feels easier than the first. Not effortless, but lighter, because you're no longer starting from zero. And that creates momentum, not just financially, but psychologically. You start to trust yourself. You realize, I can actually do this. And that belief, that's dangerous, in a good way, because once you believe you can build money, you start behaving like someone who does. Now let's talk about something most people overlook. When you don't have savings, every problem is urgent. Car trouble, crisis, medical bill, stress, unexpected expense, panic. But with a financial cushion, those same problems still exist. They just don't control you anymore. They become manageable. Inconvenient, yes, but not destabilizing. And that emotional stability, that's what allows you to think long term. Now here's a shift that surprises a lot of people. Once you reach this level, you stop obsessing over small expenses, not because they don't matter at all, but because you realize they're not the main driver. The real impact comes from bigger decisions: where you live, what you earn, how you invest, what you commit to long term. Instead of stressing over $3 decisions, you start optimizing $30,000 decisions. That's where real progress happens. And there's another benefit people don't talk about enough: confidence in your career. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, you don't have leverage. You need the job, which means you tolerate more than you should. But when you have savings, you carry yourself differently. You speak differently. You negotiate differently. You're not desperate, and people can feel that. Ironically, that's often when better opportunities start showing up, not because of luck, but because your behavior changed. Now let me give you a warning, because this is where people sabotage themselves. They finally build that cushion. They feel proud, relieved, and then they spend it. upgrade the car, take the big trip, increase their lifestyle, and just like that, they're back at zero. That $20,000? It's not a reward. It's a foundation. It's the thing that gives you stability, leverage, and momentum. And if you protect it, it compounds into something much bigger. If you don't, you stay stuck in the same cycle. So here's the takeaway. You don't need to be rich to feel in control. You need breathing room. You need margin. You need a point where your decisions stop being driven by survival. For a lot of people, that point starts around $20,000. It won't change your life overnight, but it will change how you think, how you decide, how you move, and that's what actually builds wealth. If you're not there yet, don't rush it. Focus on consistency, because once you cross that line, everything starts to feel different. And once you feel that difference, you won't want to go back.